You ever have that feeling like you're just running on a treadmill? You're putting in all this effort, but you're not actually getting anywhere? Well, that's a feeling that people have had for thousands of years, and it's right at the heart of this incredible ancient book we're going to dive into today, Ecclesiastes. It's all about a search for meaning in a world that, let's be honest, can often feel pretty meaningless.
So this book, it doesn't really ease you in. Nope. It just starts right off the bat with this absolute gut punch of a statement. All is to no purpose. Now, this isn't just some gloomy pessimism. It's actually the starting line for a really honest, no-holds-barred investigation into whether our lives have any real, lasting value at all.
Okay, so you might be wondering, where does this really bleak outlook come from? Well, the preacher, our guide through this book, starts by just looking around. He's observing the world, and what he sees is this relentless, kind of exhausting cycle, like a cosmic treadmill where everything is constantly moving, but nothing ever really changes.
The preacher, who identifies himself as a king in Jerusalem, sees this same pattern everywhere he looks. Generations come and go, but the earth just stays the same. The sun rises, races across the sky, and then it just does it all over again the next day. The wind blows around and around, but it always ends up back where it started. It's a world of endless activity with no real progress, no final destination.
So, watching nature do its endless, cyclical thing leads him to his big question. The central question of the whole book, really. If the world itself is just spinning its wheels, what does that mean for us? What's the real point of all our hard work, all our striving under the sun, if in the end, there's no lasting gain? To try and answer his own huge question, the preacher decides to run a kind of grand experiment on himself. He's going to test all the things people usually chase after to see if any of them actually hold the key to meaning. And first up on his list, pleasure, achievement, and of course, wealth. So he starts with big achievements, great works. He launches these massive building projects, constructing incredible houses for himself. He's basically testing the idea that if he leaves behind a physical legacy, a monument to his own greatness, that'll give him a sense of purpose. Next, he moves on to pleasure and beauty. It's not enough to just build stuff. He wants to make it beautiful. So he designs these lavish, incredible gardens and parks, basically his own personal paradise. He's trying to see if surrounding himself with perfect beauty can fill that empty feeling.
And then, of course, he tests the big one: money, power, wealth. He gathers gold and silver, the treasures of entire nations. He holds nothing back, getting every single luxury and pleasure you could possibly imagine. By any standard, he has it all.
So, what's the result of this massive experiment? After getting everything we're told is supposed to make us happy, the power, the money, the pleasure, his conclusion is just stunning. He finds it's all empty. It was, in his unforgettable words, like chasing the wind. It's this frustrating, exhausting chase for something you can never, ever catch.
Okay, so trying to create his own meaning through his own efforts was a total bust. So now, the preacher totally shifts his perspective. He stops trying to force his will on the world, and instead, he just starts observing it again. But this time, noticing these fixed, unchangeable rhythms of life.
And what he realizes is that life isn't just random. It's governed by these appointed times, or seasons. And he starts with the most fundamental pair of all: a time for birth and a time for death. These are the bookends of every human life, and they are completely non-negotiable. This same rhythm applies to our inner lives, too. There's a time for weeping, and there's a time for laughing. He sees that our emotions are like this dance of opposites, and no single feeling, whether it's sadness or joy, is going to last forever.
He even observes that our words, our very communication, has its own proper timing. There are moments when wisdom tells you to just be quiet, and there are other moments when you absolutely have to speak up.
And this pattern just keeps scaling up, all the way to the biggest forces in human experience: love and hate, war and peace. The crucial takeaway from this famous poem is that these seasons are just woven into the fabric of reality. We don't get to control them. Now, when you're faced with a world of uncontrollable cycles and a feeling of meaninglessness, it would be so easy to just fall into despair. But the preacher doesn't stop there. He makes another pivot. And in this seemingly pointless world, he finds a small but really powerful source of value: other people.
This totally shifts his search. He's no longer looking at solitary achievements. He's looking at the space between people. He's realizing that if you can't find meaning all by yourself, then hey, maybe it can only be found together.
And what's so great about his reasoning here is how incredibly down-to-earth it is. I mean, look at these examples. Companionship isn't some lofty, abstract idea. It's just practical. Two people working together get more done. If one of you falls down, the other's right there to help you up. They can keep each other warm, protect each other. It's all about real, tangible support in a tough world.
And he wraps up this insight with this powerful image. A single thread is super easy to snap. But if you twist 3 strands together into a cord, it becomes incredibly strong. In a world that can feel so fragile and pointless, it's our connections with each other that give us strength. And this is really the first solid anchor of meaning that he's found on his entire journey.
So after this long, winding journey, after looking into wisdom, pleasure, work, even despair, the preacher finally arrives at his destination. He's ready to give us the final word, his ultimate conclusion to this whole search for meaning.
After all the experiments, all the observations, all the ups and downs, he boils it all down to one simple, final question. At the end of the day, what is our fundamental duty as human beings?
And here it is. Here's his answer. After exploring every possible path to meaning here on Earth,